Live from the 607, it's the Ocho Duro Parlay Hour, where we're talking everything movies, TV, comics, and entertainment. Join in the conversation on social media with the hashtag ODPH, because here we go. Welcome to an all-new edition of the ODPH podcast. What is happening, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us this week. My name is Ken M. Joining me in studio, as always, you know him. He's the co-host. He's the statistician to the stars. His name is Padawan J.
Let me talk to anybody in the state of Florida. Please stay safe.
Yes.
I've got family down there, so I'm a little in tune and in touch with kind of what's going on down there and some of the hazards they're running into, such as there's still debris from the last storm that went through, and it's potentially going to end up as shrapnel flying through the air. So if you are one of our listeners in the wonderful state of Florida, please stay safe.
Absolutely. No, safety first, folks. So make sure to pay attention to your news channels, your weather channels, keep an eye on everything going on. But most importantly, I can't stress it enough, stay safe during all of this. And if we can provide you some entertainment with this episode, then it's our privilege to do that for you. And we have a lot to talk about in the land of movies, TV, comics, and more. You are tuned into the entertainment edition of the ODPH, and we definitely want to keep the conversations rolling after the show. So, Pat, where does everybody go to?
ODPHpodcast.com.
Right on. Social media links. TeePublic store sale going on. That's what I'm hearing. And there's a lot of stuff happening over there at the channel, so you want to make sure you go check that out, especially con season in full swing right now. We're going to have a lot to talk about that next week. So you want to make sure you go get some ODPH gear if you're going to be going out to the biggest cons of the season. Also, check out the blog section, reviews dropping left and right, the classifieds, which has friends of the show such as 3FM Podcast, Dragon Master Games, Nerd Initiative, and many more. The directory. Pat, how many providers are we on?
62,146.
See, I do not question him because he has a very trusty source.
Trust me, bro.
Exactly. So trusty is a word, so we're going to use that. So wherever you're listening to us on your favorite podcast player, it definitely means the world to us that you're giving us the time. Drop a review on your favorite podcatcher as well, because it definitely helps the algorithm of the show. And we have a great music section to go along with it, too. Like, there's so much going on at ODPHpodcast.com. Like, you can't go wrong. So definitely make sure you go check it out. Support all the bands that you hear on the show as well, like Second Suitor, Tom Jolu. Shout out the Robots, Floodlands, Brian Wolf, and the Howlers. You definitely want to go support them. And for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. And remember on the social medias to use the hashtag ODPHpod. We have a jam-packed show today. 3 shows to break down, and one that I think flew under the radar.
Okay.
Because we know that James Gunn has a big Superman movie coming out next year.
You might have heard of it.
And all eyes have been focused on that and the amazing casting they've been doing. But there's been one show on the CW that has been making some waves, making some noise for quite some time since this came in. And it is now going into its final season. It has returned. And, Pat, what show are we talking about?
Superman and Lois.
Yes, indeed. The spinoff of the Arrowverse, starring Tyler Hoechlin as Clark Kent, Elizabeth Tulloch as Lois Lane, and their journeys from Metropolis to Smallville, trying to raise their young family and the insanity that ensues that can only follow Superman wherever he goes. The show has been a smash success and has been one that has definitely won many fans over with his portrayals, the excellent acting going on, and they just came back quietly with their 2-episode premiere.
Yeah.
And we know it's going to be a short season. There's a lot of moving parts going on, especially after the cliffhanger from last season. So we definitely want to deep dive into the show on its return and give it a proper farewell as it enters the final stretch.
Yeah.
So if you're new to the ODPH, first and foremost, thank you again for checking us out. What we like to do is give you a spoiler-free statement of what we're going to be discussing. Then after that, we give you a countdown. At said moment, you got a choice to make. You either stay through the countdown, hear the spoiler talk, or pause the episode, catch up on watching on your own time, and pop back in for the conversation there. Pad puts the timestamp in the liner notes of each and every episode so you don't miss a thing, so we can't ruin anything for you. So that being said, Pad, 2 episodes kicked off the final season of Superman and Lois. What's your spoiler-free take?
So, one, I'm glad they put the little, previously on Superman and Lois because I had to look up when this was. I knew it was a while ago, but the previous episode, which was season 3, episode 13, What Kills You Only Makes You Stronger, aired on Tuesday, June 27th, 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So we're well over a year removed from that previous episode. And, well, a few things have happened.
Yeah.
TV shows, movies, comics, all that stuff. So I honestly, at some point in the previous year had gone, you know what? I'm going to rewatch the first 3 episodes. I might watch it with my fiance, see if she likes it, whatnot. Never got around to it. So when it came time, I'm like, crap, I really hope they do a decent previously on because I might forget. Thank God they did. But for the episode, good episode, solid start. Interested to see where they go with this because we do know it's going to be a little bit of a shortened season for what you might normally expect. It's only going to be 10 episodes, so no real time for fluff, no real time for filler. Plus, it's the final season. But for the first 2 episodes, very good.
I thought where they picked things up with Michael Cudlitz playing Lex Luthor, unleashing Doomsday onto Metropolis and the world and having a recreation of one of the greatest Superman stories of all time. I thought they were taking some risks, but they wanted to swing for the fences, and they definitely hit it. I did not expect the episode to go the way that it did.
Yeah.
Because they did take some liberties in the fallout from it. Some might have thought it was a little extreme. I didn't think it was that bad.
No.
But I think they really wanted to establish how dangerous Doomsday was. And now what happens in the fallout from their epic confrontation. And it does leave a lot of questions to be had.
Yeah.
But I thought where they really hit their stride is when it centers around Elizabeth Tolick and her 2 sons, Alex Garfin, who plays Jordan Kent, and Michael Bishop plays Jonathan Kent. I think once you get to the family dynamic, that's always been the strength of the show.
Absolutely.
And I think that started shining here in the wake of what happened during the fight. So now going in 2 episodes in, I'm intrigued by what I saw. And I thought they really started things on a good note.
Yeah.
But I'm really kind of puzzling with how long they can sustain this without certain characters involved.
Sure.
But it's still definitely worth the watch. It still reminds me of why it was one of the best shows on the CW and still is. So that being said, Pad, let's go into some spoiler talk because there's a lot to break down with this episode. So in 3, 2, 1, talk to me.
Like I said, thought the episodes were good. It's a good start. It's a good kind of return to form, I guess you could say. I know some of our criticisms we've had in the past where it's focusing too much on some of the B stories or even the C stories in some instances. Really wasn't a whole lot of that. It was kind of centrally focused on, well, we just saw the Man of Steel fighting an alien in the middle of town and they disappeared off into space and we have no idea where he is, to then the fallout with that and everything going on with Lex and kind of finding and really digging into just why the heck he's doing what he's doing. And kind of digging into that meat and potatoes, I love the hell out of it. You know? So overall, loved it.
Yeah, I really thought they hit their strides. Like everything that we love about the show, I thought they really did.
Yeah.
The only thing that is very puzzling is now with the fallout of Superman allegedly dead.
Yeah.
And the graphic nature that one key piece had.
Yeah.
How does this all shape up?
Well, I think the reason they might have changed it, because for those of you who don't know, in the comic and in the various iterations they've done of this over the years, he doesn't technically die. His heart rate just slows down slow enough that it's not detected by anybody. And he gets taken back to the Fortress of Solitude where he's, I don't want to say reincarnated, but he's like, healed and then comes back in the black suit we all know and love with the killer mullet.
Yeah.
And at the time and for the initial telling, it works. And if you go back and you read the comic, it works. But I think if you're doing a modern retelling, having a character that it doesn't matter what you do to them, especially when it's Superman, who Boy Scout, peace, justice, and a better tomorrow and all that jazz, having it where he dies and then, it doesn't matter. He can just go to the Fortress of Solitude, get healed, and he'll be fine. It almost reeks of like the Golden Era, Silver Era, where they were making up powers on the weekly. So to change it a little bit and go, hey, there's more to it than just Doomsday beat the holy hell out of him. That, hey, this is your one chance to get him back, and you didn't get it. It adds a little bit of weight. It adds a little bit of gravitas and a little bit of, consequences.
Yeah, it definitely does, and I'm interested to see where it goes because now he doesn't have a heart.
Yeah.
So, and they spent episode 2 of the second premiere really deep diving in about that, and you see what happened. So now it's I got a couple different theories that going around for it, but I don't know, like, and that's something I like that I don't know, but trying to also put together the reason why is
Sure.
like I say, there's a lot of question marks I have, but I really thought they hit the ground running too because they picked right up where they left off.
Yeah.
It's the Superman and Doomsday fight that everybody knows from the comics.
The flashback turns into the presently.
Mm-hmm. And we see everybody in space, and they're going absolutely crazy. And I love the CGI here. I love the action going on. This is everything we expected. And Tyler Hoechlin, who plays an amazing Superman, really brought it, really tapped into that side of Superman that we don't really see, but we have seen it against Doomsday.
Yep.
That you really see him lose any kind of like holding back that he usually does and unleashes his full force. So they're going blow for blow, and I love how they did it. Even with how they made Doomsday in this because it's a spinoff of Bizarro.
Yeah, that was weird how we got there.
It was weird, but it works though.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to take that. So all the while, we find out that Lex Luthor, who's played by Michael Caldas once again, and is crushing this role, has been more or less working behind the scenes about how he can really stick it to the Kents, and especially Lois, because Lois is responsible for him going to jail for a good amount of time and thus causing him to lose his connection with his daughter that we find out. So Lex is more than happy to completely make Lois's life a living hell.
Yeah.
He buys a hotel in Smallville to set up shop. And he's also saying, well, I'm not done here. I'm going after your family.
Well, yeah, and at one point, I think it's in the second episode, he gets approached by some folks from his company. I don't know if it's LexCorp or LuthorCorp in this universe. It's the one thing I hate.
LuthorCorp.
Okay, it's LuthorCorp. That's the one thing I hate with all these iterations. They always change the name of the company. But he gets approached by these two people who work for his company, and they're basically like, hey, we know you've been gone for a while, but the trend these days is for, all of the CEOs to be really trendy and really in front of the cameras and present in social media and stuff, and we think you should come back to the office and really get hammered on what you see for the future of this company. And that's when he tells the plan that, like, oh, hey, yeah, I'm not done here.
Yeah.
And they're like, what? And he's like, yeah, no, I'm not.
No, he's definitely planting more seeds in. And this is something that the minute he got out, we are all expecting something to happen.
Yep.
And he is now laying down more groundwork with this. And it ultimately ties up with the first episode, is you see more of this fight going on, but it also has a backstory going on involving Lois's father, who's played by Dylan Walsh, General Sam Lane, who was trying to go out dating again, and the woman that was his girlfriend, shall we say, or date for the evening, winds up kidnapping him.
Yep.
And we find out that she works for Lex, along with a henchman known as Otis. And they come across the idea of, like, we're just going to bury him alive.
With wet sand, because that's going to make him suffer more. And I'm sitting there going, I didn't need to know that information.
Well, they really wanted to make sure that everybody knew how dangerous Lex was and how ruthless he is.
Which I don't think is something we've seen in any of the portrayals over the years. I mean, probably the closest one that comes close is Michael Rosenbaum.
Yes.
Rosenbaum did some fucked up shit. If you've never seen Smallville, go watch Smallville, if for nothing else than to see how... Just watch Michael Rosenbaum from season 1 through season 10. It is wild to watch. But you think back to, the Gene Hackman portrayal in the original films, where he's like a real estate mogul and, I'm going to do this just to drive up the price. Ha ha ha.
Yeah.
And all the later portrayals, you don't really see that. But to see him and establish this portrayal as, no, he gives zero you-know-whats.
Well, I think that they really wanted to go to the comic element of it.
Sure.
And that's something that, you touched upon. Gene Wilder was never like this.
No. Even Clancy Brown in the animated series he was ruthless.
Teetered around
he
it.
Teetered it, but it was a kid's cartoon on a Saturday morning, so they never went full tilt.
Yeah. And then the Snyderverse was...
Here today, gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
Never really knew.
Yeah, so I know that that iteration never really clicked in.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, to see this side come out, this is something that we know in the comics. And this is one that I really thought Cutlass just elevated because he showed, like, I'm doing this just for pure spite. I don't care about you. You and your family have been a thorn in my side for way too long.
He's essentially like, listen, I warned you this would happen.
Yeah.
And now you're going to deal with the consequences.
Yeah. So it made perfect sense to roll it out like this. And just really got a chance for Alex Garfin's Jordan to really test his powers out, because he is the one that is technically Superboy in this universe.
Yep.
So it really is a strive on him if he could do it. He winds up actually honing in on Gretchen, the girlfriend in question of Sam's, and tracks him down to a junkyard.
Yeah.
Where he winds up making the late-minute save with his powers to rescue Sam from being, suffocated, dying.
And this takes a while because he spends the first part of the episode, really hunting, or the first half of the 2 episodes, whatever you want to cut it down as, trying to find his dad. But his dad is so far out of Earth. I don't want to say gone, because at this point he's not, that dead yet. But he's so far removed from Smallville that he can't. And plus, I think his powers are the kid's powers are still just not quite up to snuff yet when it comes to the hearing aspect of things. He's got them and they're decent, but they're not A+ material. But he can't track his dad down, and then he tries finding his grandfather, and he's having trouble tracking his grandfather down because at this point when he's doing this, they're in like some secure bunker that like sound can't leave. But then once they leave and they go to the construction site or whatever the hell the place is, that's when he finally tunes in on the quote unquote girlfriend's voice.
Yes. So he does make the late-minute save, and all is well for now. The General Sam Lane is there, but he does not realize that there is no Superman, because what gets summed up during this episode is Doomsday kills him in an amazing fight in space.
Yeah. Rips his heart out.
Yeah, and he literally rips his heart out, which I thought was wild.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
Yeah.
Because we know their fights in the comics have always been brutal. And that's the whole embodiment of Doomsday to begin with.
Yep.
So to see them go on the small screen and do this, albeit though the fact that this is a version of Bizarro.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of ties into the Snyderverse version, if you will.
A little bit.
To a degree.
Inspired by.
With Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor making him. And I forgot about that version, because that's, like I say, that's more of a campy version.
Yeah.
Cutlass's version is more controlling, that he thinks he has control of Doomsday.
He told a creature or a person, thing, whatever you want to classify Doomsday as, that like could kill him just by squeezing its 2 fingers together.
Yeah.
He turned around and got it to listen to him and say, hey, go bring me Superman's heart. Took a minute, but he did it.
Mm-hmm. So he takes the heart, and he also makes a statement in Metropolis when he brings the dead body back and throws it at the feet of the Kents.
Well, that's in Smallville. That's not in Metropolis.
Oh, Smallville.
That's back in Main Street. I'll call it Main Street Smallville, because at this point the kids have gone back. They're doing their own thing at the house, and then Superboy picks up on he hears his dad re-entering the atmosphere.
Yeah. Like I say, it reminds me so much. That's why I say I get a little confused, because we have that iconic shot of Lois holding a lifeless Superman in her arms.
Yeah.
And we almost have that here too, because the body's there, and she goes to comfort and like didn't try figuring out what happened.
Almost gives away the secret.
Yeah, almost gives it away completely.
Although one person figured it out.
Yeah, let's talk about that, bud.
Well, so Lois is there with her 2 boys, crying their eyes out because, hey, their father's dead. And because of the commotion and everything else, and plus, hey, Doomsday was standing in the middle of the street, some folks come out. And some folks start seeing what's going on, and everyone is kind of standing there going, why is Lois Lane holding Superman's dead body and crying over him? And that's when one of the pedestrians, city folk, stand there and they put 2 and 2 together, and they go, hey, listen, why is everyone looking at this weird? Superman and Lois were great friends, and everyone knows this.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire population of Smallville that was there at that moment went, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, of course, they don't want to tip it off that easy, that if you take Clark's glasses off, he's Superman.
This is true.
Which, I mean, for many years, nobody ever put this 1 and 1 together. But still, it plays out for here, because that is the tipping point of everything going on. So when General Lane knows that Superman's no longer here, and then the boys are now trying to figure out how they can try saving their dad.
The one wants to take on Lex Luthor, and Lois is like, no, you're an idiot.
Well, the whole thing is she knows how dangerous he is.
Oh, yeah.
And the one thing that they've been trying to establish with Jordan Kent this entire run is you have powers, but you're not ready.
Yeah.
And as much as he wants to think he is, he never has
He's a typical teenager.
Oh, yeah, of course. But he's always been like the social outcast, so to speak, of the group.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't register with him about this. So he's just hell-bent in high water. He's going to do this. And that's where things kind of end with their story, even though they did sprinkle in the flashbacks as well, too, which was very cool about the early days between Clark and Lois.
Yeah.
And basically why Lois was so hell-bent about getting Lex Luthor convicted.
Yeah.
Because she thought that he was looking for kryptonite, and that would stop him. So that's how that episode wraps up.
Yeah.
But it's still a very solid episode. They tie up a lot of things. The CGI for the first fight was great.
Yeah.
And then they roll it into now Superman's dead.
Yep.
The heart's missing. There's a huge hole in his chest, which is wild to see. And then we roll right into episode 2, a World Without. And now we see Lana Lang show up, who's played by Manuel Kirky. And obviously their history is there, and she's like trying to hold everybody back about what's going on.
Well, she's in such a state of disbelief too because her daughter tells her what happened.
Yeah.
And she just can't believe it because, as we know, childhood friends, they've known each other since they were kids, and just the fact that somebody she's known that closely, admittedly they might have grown apart, not connected for a while, but still, it hit her and it just stuns her.
Oh, of course. So during this whole melee going on between the crowd, and they're all just in shock that Superman has died in front of them, Jordan takes the body.
Yep.
And he goes back to the Fortress of Solitude.
Because why not?
Well, I mean, if you're going to go somewhere,
yeah,
that's probably the safest place on Earth that we know of.
Surgical ward at a hospital ain't going to do it.
No, I mean, the only other spot he could go to is the Batcave.
Right.
But we have not established Mr. Bruce Wayne in this one.
We haven't established anybody in this universe.
Right. So it's all Superman
Which,
lore.
Reminder for folks, this is not, and I repeat, not in the Arrow universe.
Correct.
It's a separate universe.
So he takes the body to the fortress where
the AI of the mother goes, what the hell happened?
Yeah. So they put him in like a cryogenic freeze.
Well, which is the same thing he was in, or same process, I guess you could say, he was in when he left Krypton to come to Earth.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know what's going to happen there.
Nope.
So all the while, Smallville is in absolute shock of what has happened, much like the rest of the world at this point.
Yeah.
However, Jordan and Jonathan are refusing to let this go.
Yeah.
They feel that if we can find his heart, we can save him.
Well, there are 5 stages of grief.
Right, which, I mean, I completely understand. I thought the boys' acting in this was really on point. We've always said since day one, probably the character that's written the best on the show is Jonathan Kent.
Yes.
And I think that really started shining here with Michael Bishop in the role. And they really were going places about how they could figure it out. And they do get a location about the heart.
Mm-hmm.
And
they put 2 and 2 together.
Well, yeah. Well, they say, I mean, if Luthor has it, they could do this. Jordan, being very brash, interrupts a meeting because
in broad daylight.
In broad daylight.
Yeah.
And confronts Lex Luthor, who's meeting with some mysterious person known as Bash, who he was informed by his associate, Amanda McCoy, about going and dealing with. And getting back to Lex Luthor business, the Superman stuff is over, and Lex is trying to still enjoy his victory lap. So when he's approached by Jordan, he's not really worried at all.
He's not exactly approached, though. He's kind of thrown up against the wall.
He is, but at this point, too, he knows, he's like, you're not the real deal. Like, you're a kid. You're not going to do anything to me. I'm Lex Luthor.
Well, and he calls his bluff because Jordan gets called from his girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever the relationship is.
Yeah, the whole Sarah thing's messy.
She goes, hey, he's here, like, because she knows what's going on. She knows there's speculation that he's got the heart and blah, blah, blah. And she tips him off that he's here. So he comes storming in the middle of the diner with folks eating their breakfast and pulls this down. He basically pulls the Christian Bale Batman. Where is she?
Yeah.
You know, but where is it? Where's the heart? You know? So I was getting those vibes. And then Cudlitz Luthor basically calls his bluff and goes, I'm not going to tell you. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
You're going to kill me? Go ahead. You would have done it by now. And then he leaves and he just goes, exactly.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, this is great work by Michael Cutlass too, because like I say, he's stealing these first 2 episodes with his character work, and he's really leaning into the ruthlessness, and it goes right into the planning that he does, because he sets a trap for Jordan and Jonathan because the location of the heart is found at a shipping yard.
Yep.
But once Jordan goes there, he finds very quickly, oh, I'm in a trap. And while he's there, he's getting shot with kryptonite rays.
Yep.
Much like his dad. And I like how they did the comparison.
Yes. Tried to emulate his dad.
Yeah. And he falls flat, and then you see Lex show up and more or less say, well,
you tried.
Yeah, you did try. So did your other son, because he snuck into the hotel. He gets kind of detained, if you will.
Yeah.
And Luthor calls and does one of the most coldest things I think I've seen.
Yeah.
Pad, what did he do?
He called Lois with an automated voice messaging system or whatever it was, and basically was like, if you want Jonathan to live, press 1. If you want Jordan to live, press 2. And there was no third option. And she couldn't hang up, and she couldn't, there was no third option, which, was I the only one getting like the whole Jason Todd vibe of things off of this?
Well, I think that we've seen the Red Hood use this before.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of makes sense, because in most iterations of live action, he's always done the villain thing first. So in that aspect, we have to remember that.
Sure.
So yeah, this is something out of the Red Hood playbook, but Luthor is also doing this too, because he's more of a grounded character than he is the billionaire.
Right.
Thinks he's the world's savior.
Well, and he knows that Lois is an incredibly tough person, physically, mentally, emotionally, and all this stuff. And he knows what he needs to do to just have her crack.
So he throws on the ultimatum about, like, you need to choose what son is going to live. But in the end, Jonathan goes home.
Yep.
And he does let Jordan go, but he does it by stepping on the heart right in front of him.
Crushes it.
Yeah, so basically he's like, you're nothing to me. Like, I can do this to you. I've just crushed your dreams. What are you going to do now? Nothing. But we find out, though, he really does have the heart hidden somewhere.
Oh, yeah. He destroyed a heart, but it wasn't the heart.
Yeah, which I was puzzled by. I mean, I'm not I don't understand.
I don't know what the end goal is with that heart.
Yeah, like...
well, I got to guess.
Go for it.
Connor Kent?
Maybe.
I mean, if this wasn't the final season, I'd say that's probably near certainty, but it's the final season.
Yeah, I mean, he could try toying with that. I mean, I just think it's a weird trophy.
I mean, you also can't. That's
the thing.
That is a trophy.
Yeah, I think it's a weird trophy. But I mean, if they had more time, sure, they might go Connor. But I don't know if they want to introduce a third son.
Yeah, probably not.
That's the only area I would say against, because Connor Kent is a great character. But I think in this situation, I just don't see them doing it. But we do find out a little more information, because now he's shifting his focus to find his daughter. And we do know that one General Lane has moved her into protective custody. So that's where the story is going to shift now. We could see how his daughter Elizabeth, who is actually played by a old friend of ours.
Yeah.
So who is playing her?
Simmons, a.k.a. Elizabeth Henstridge.
Yes. So we do see that his daughter is going to be on the show, and I think that she might be the key about getting the heart back.
Probably.
For reasons.
Probably. She's got a real good reason she doesn't talk to her father these days, so her views aren't going to align with his.
Yeah, so I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with her in the role. And then we sum up events, more or less, with the Kents paying a final tribute to Superman at the Fortress, where we do see that there's an AI version of Clark that kind of says this thing, well, in case I die here, And
they wonder when he did this, and he's like, well, I did it shortly after Lois got sick, and I hoped you guys would never have to see it.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's how things wrap up. It's a strong open, though. I will say that.
Very strong.
I really think they wanted to establish about life without Superman. And I'm just curious about how long they're going to be able to keep him away.
A couple episodes, I would say.
Well, you have to think that he will somehow come back and heal, because with only 10 episodes lined up, you've already now I don't want to say wasted 2, but you've already done 2, I should say.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go from here?
I mean, you got to figure there'll be at least one episode with Steel trying to take over the mantle. I think it'll emulate some of the aspects of that, post Death of Superman story. It won't go blow for blow, panel for panel recreation, but for what makes sense, it'll borrow from some of those stories.
Yeah.
And then it'll get into how he comes back.
Well, I think that's a smart play to do. I truly do.
We might see some of the, not necessarily A tier Superman villains, but maybe like B or C, maybe some of the villains and the gangs or whatever show up, like the not necessarily like the casual fan might know, but if you're one of the longer readers of Superman, you're like, oh hey, it's that one, and some of the Easter eggs.
Yeah, and I think that's smart to do.
Yeah,
I really do. But I think for where we go now, I think the shift is going to be on the search for Lex's daughter.
Yeah, and
I think that she now becomes the big character on the show.
Probably.
It will be interesting to see about how some other storylines tie up. Because, I mean, we haven't seen a couple characters come back. Lana's ex-husband, Kyle.
If we see him at all.
Yeah, if he comes back.
Because we know before last season ended, they got switched from series regulars to basically guest appearances.
Yeah.
And then with this being the final season, I would not be surprised at all, and I'm not wishing it on these characters or their stories, because some of those stories were at least a little bit interesting and I would like to see resolved. I would not be surprised, though, if they're just cut and not mentioned at all.
Well,
just for time.
I wouldn't be mad about that because, like you touched on, for time reasons. Because, I mean, there's only so much you could do with Kyle's
10 episodes. Yeah,
with Kyle's story and everything involved there.
Yeah, and much like some of the other stories we've had in previous seasons, for me at this point, it's shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, and I think they're going to have to make some moves quickly. But like I say, I think everything now turns to the search for Elizabeth Luthor, which I'm surprised they went away, a different name from the comics. But you know what? I'm not mad about it because we've seen strong acting coming in, and they're really establishing about the dangerous side of Lex Luthor, which I like to see in this live-action universe because we really haven't seen that before. And then now we just go to how are they going to bring Superman back? Then where we go from here is literally anybody's guess. So that being said, hit us up on the hashtag ODPHpod. What is your thoughts about the first 2 episodes of the final season of Superman and Lois on the CW? Episode 1, The End in the Beginning, and Episode 2, A World Without. Hit us up. Let us know. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
You ever wondered what comics Mark from Vale Mai's into? What Zach from Left Behind's favorite MCU movies are? Well, Metalcore Nerds is the show for you. My name is Sean Mott, and here at Metalcore Nerds, we cover the latest things in pop culture, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, DC, AEW, and everything else in between. You can listen to the show every Monday on Adobe Howl at 7 p.m. Eastern, or find it anywhere you find podcasts after it debuts on the radio station.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. We talked DC, the first one. Now we got to swing to the side of Marvel and the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to be specific, because we are recapping what, Pad?
Agatha All Along.
Yes, the spinoff from WandaVision has really been making a lot of noise for its creativity and dealing with the magical side of the Marvel live-action universe. And, of course, Kathryn Hahn reprising her role as Agatha Harkness. It's trying to steal, or I say, get her powers back, but I kind of think that she's stealing it off the Witch's Road with her own coven, and the trials and tribulations that they're going through have really caught pop culture's eye. You're seeing a lot more people come around to the show, but they are taking a lot of chances too, which is either been hit or miss. So we will be recapping episode 4 entitled, If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You. Same deal as the first episode, spoiler-free statement, then we go countdown, and then we deep dive. So, Pad, what is your spoiler-free statement on this episode?
It was okay. It didn't necessarily blow me away. I didn't feel like, it was a gigantic waste of my time that, I could have waited until, the night before we recorded the show to watch the episode and get caught up or whatever, but it was okay. Middle of the road.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, I thought if you're really liking the musical aspect and that kind of vibe, this has been good. And I will say this kind of reminds me almost in a sense of Legends of Tomorrow.
Okay.
They're doing like it kind of
anthology kind of.
It's anthology style, but it kind of feels like time travel, even though it's not. Like I understand it's a spot on the Witch's Road, but I really thought like this. It was almost like the same thing that we saw previously, like trial tribulation. Things got weird. Resolution. And then we go from there. But however, one character made a return for this, and I was super excited to see her back on the show because she's a very big X factor. And that is played by Aubrey Plaza.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll just leave it at that. But I thought it did its job about making this another trial and tribulation. However, though, we're now at the midway point.
Yep.
We really got to start hitting the gas pedal and getting somewhere. So that being said, let's get into some spoiler talk. So Pat, in 3, 2, 1, talk to me.
Like I said, episode was fine. It didn't blow me away. It was kind of there, start, middle, end. I enjoyed it. I'm interested to see where it goes. But in terms of like, wow, I need to rewatch that part again, or I need to look up people doing reaction videos to the episode just so I can see their reaction to that scene. Not really. It was there. I watched it. I enjoyed my time. It was what it was.
Yeah, I mean, this was more or less kind of the same vibe. I know they were trying to do some different things, obviously dealing with the 1970s and go and play in that route. And I think I will applaud the show for doing its creativity because it is something we haven't seen before.
Yeah.
I just feel like, okay, this was a quick trial tribulation. Did we really get anywhere with this? Did we not? I think the ending was very good, though.
Yeah.
Because anytime you have Aubrey Plaza's character come back, I think that's where you have some real fun things. Because her character is very mysterious thus far. We don't really know a lot of what's going on there. But how she's getting at Agatha is really providing some of the best moments on the show. And that's where we kind of kick off because we are dealing with the death of Sharon, who I guess is dead in this universe. So so this will be the final episode for Deborah Jo Rupp, who plays that character very well, who did not make it out of the first trials of the Witch's Road.
And I know typically in Marvel shows and Star Wars and a lot of pop culture these days, it's never say never with some of these characters, but it feels like in this instance, and at least in this plane of existence, never is never. Like, it ain't happening. She ain't coming back. There ain't going to be some mystical voodoo incantation. There ain't going to be any sacrifice or, whatever else. Like, she gone.
Yeah. So they now are trying to figure out who's going to replace her because they need a green witch. And lo and behold, who comes out of the grave?
Rio.
Yeah, Rio Vidal, who is played by the one and only Aubrey Plaza. And that is someone that Agatha is not too happy of seeing.
Oh, stop lying. She's thrilled.
Yeah. I mean, you can kind of see the tension building. And like I said,
you can feel the love between them.
Yeah, they have a lot of history between them. Like, you can just sense. And it's just pouring on the page.
Someone did something and it wasn't steal their Cheerios.
Correct. So how this dynamic is going to play out in the future episodes, like, that's something I'm really keeping an eye on.
Yeah.
So their next trial, though, they go to a 1970s-esque house.
Love the recreation they did with this house.
Oh, yeah.
This is awesome.
Yeah, they went completely 70s, everything from the clothing to the vibe. Like, everything about it was really good. And then they were dealing with more or less about how it was dealing with the grief for Alice, as it's now a recording studio. And I thought that was something really interesting because, I mean, Alian, who plays Alice, you're starting to get a more sense of what is going on with her character and just, and her emotions. So to see how this plays out, I think was very, very cool to see. And then they start kind of going into like a little different thing because you start seeing that Rio is stirring the pot against everybody.
Of course.
And I think that, like I say, Aubrey Plaza is making this show. That she's now getting the seed in everybody's head that Agatha's just going to set you up. And everybody knows about it. And then the teen, as he's being referred to as...
For now.
I think is probably the worst kept secret of this show.
Yep.
Is Joe Locke, who's playing Wiccan.
Yep.
You're now seeing him get more involved, and he is somebody that plays a record backwards.
Well, yeah, because they find out that they're not just in a house. The house turns out to be a recording studio. And the kid plays a record backwards, and it ends up bringing a demon that I guess is, the curse in Alice's family. Now, the whole thing with this record playing backwards, was that a play on like the whole fun theory or whatever it is? Like, oh, if you play Dark Side of the Moon backwards while watching Wizard of Oz, like X, Y, and Z will happen. That's the vibe I got. It was them poking fun at it.
1,000,000%.
Okay.
This is something that you've heard from I always remember the 1980s hearing about hair metal bands or heavy metal bands.
Yeah, the one I know everyone jokingly references is Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh, yeah. No, there's something about if you play a record backwards, you can hear a demon and X, Y, and Z. So I think they had some fun running this. So now you have a demon that's actually there.
Hey, it actually happened.
Yeah, that now apparently, since this is all focused on Alice and her, like her pain, you're now seeing this come to be, and I guess to now break the curse, the coven now has to perform the song.
Lorna's version.
Yeah.
Taylor's version.
Yeah. So, I mean, I thought that was
A lot of nods in this episode.
Yeah, I thought this was something very interesting about how they set this up because
Yeah.
that was the vibe I was getting. It's like, oh, they're going to try emulating, like we're going to have Taylor's version.
Yep.
So they do play this ballad. It's now a protection spell, and they're able to stop the demon.
Yep.
But during their playing of this song, Wiccan is injured.
Yep. Severely.
Badly, yeah. He's stabbed, which I honestly thought when they played this episode out, I was like, how, like he got really hit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did they not notice? Like, because that was
heat of the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of really weird to see how it all played out. But they know this. I mean, he can't make it to the next place, and on this road, they're dealing with it. You see Jennifer Kale step up and really showcase her powers, and like I say, Shazir Zamata is playing this role absolutely incredible. And you see that she's able to save Wiccan's life. So later on, as you're seeing Rio, who's, like I said, stirring the pot with everything, even with the band and just kind of messing with everybody here.
Mm-hmm.
They're now on the road, and you do have that bonding moment between the rest of the coven.
Well, of course.
But Rio is not jumping on board.
Nope.
And you see her kind of waiting in the wings. And as they're going by, you do see Wiccan kind of ask Agatha what happened to her son, because we do know about Agatha's son, Nicholas, and nothing's ever said about him. She won't answer it.
Yeah, there's a history. Everyone knows it. They're not telling.
Mm-hmm. So as they're going on, too, you do see another back and forth between Agatha and Rio that almost ends with a kiss out of nowhere.
Yep.
And then during that, you kind of get this quick mic drop moment that Rio says to Agatha, Wiccan's not yours.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, literally, that's how they end it.
Which, no shit.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think they're trying to force the whole idea of Nicholas onto the show and keep that mystery going. But,
yeah.
But I don't think anybody's really buying it, because we do know who Wiccan is set to be. And
Well, the teen.
Yeah.
He's going to be Wiccan.
Yeah, I know. I just hate saying the teen. Like, it's just like he should have a different name, in my opinion.
Yeah, simplicity.
Yeah, I understand why, but it's just like the teen. Like,
Yeah, I get it.
But it's still, like, we're seeing a little more dramatic pause happening there.
Yeah.
And I think just for what they want to set up this episode, like, it was pretty straightforward, pretty direct. I mean,
pretty standard.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really take anything away from it, like anybody's in real danger, especially, I thought would have been a crazier take is, like, if Wiccan didn't survive.
Yeah.
I really thought, like, if we did
that would have been something.
That would have been crazy. Like, okay, now we're going somewhere. But it felt like it was almost kind of safe. And then diving more into the history of Agatha and Rio, too, especially the ending. Like that's the big takeaway for me. Not so much the 70s-esque.
It was fun.
Yeah, like I say, it's fun, yeah. And I think the show is having that, which is all right. It's perfectly fine to do.
Yeah.
I don't know about me. That's just my thoughts. But Pat, how about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, the vibe and the whole time travel, age travel, like going through the different ages or what eras or whatever, that's fun. It's a nice change of pace. It's not the same wash, rinse, repeat, vibe and aesthetic and look every week. So they'll change it up, not a little bit of flavor of the week. That's fine. I'm all right with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it too. Like, it makes sense for where the story's going, because they're trying to have some fun with it and mixing in magic with the seriousness tone of the show. So it is paying off dividends, but like I say, we're at the midway point. We really got to get going somewhere. I'm hoping we get a big episode on the next one for 5, to really kind of set the course for where we're heading into the final act. But in the meantime, though, the show is doing what it needs to do. It's a fun look at the magic side of things. Catherine Hahn is playing an absolutely amazing role, and we are seeing Aubrey Plaza's matching her and even excelling in certain areas too. Which, when you have 2 strong actresses doing this it really makes for a magical time, pun intended.
Mm-hmm.
But it really is making for quality television that everybody should be checking out as well. So that being said, hit us up on that hashtag ODPH pod. What is your thoughts about Agatha All Along's episode 4 entitled If I Can't Reach You, Let My Song Teach You? Let's discuss, shall we? But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Hey all, I'm Frank. Join me and my friends as we talk about all things geek. Here at Geek Freaks Podcast, we go over the weekly news of everything in geekdom, from movies to TV, video games, and comic books. We also have a growing YouTube community. Join us as we go over everything in your geek life and share in the love of geekdom.
Coming back for another segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast, and we have to talk about a show saving the best for last, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
Because this show is really taking a hold of pop culture. It's really gaining ground via word of mouth. I think it's proving a lot of early reviews wrong and questioning a lot of people's opinions, because this show that we're about to discuss has really been something special. I'm hoping next week we hear an announcement for season 2.
Maybe.
We have not as of yet, but obviously with it being Comic-Con season, I wouldn't doubt that we hear something about this certain DC Comics character. Pat, who are we talking about?
The Penguin, starring Colin Farrell.
Yes, the spinoff from Matt Reeves' 2022 film, The Batman, has really been making some noise with some great acting and a plot that is ever evolving, showing the criminal side of Gotham City without a Cape Crusader involved. And like Pat alluded to, Colin Farrell is acting his you-know-what off. He has been phenomenal in this role. Kristen Milioti, who has been playing Sophia Falcone, has been absolutely excellent as well. And Renzi Felice.
Scene stealing, I would say.
Yeah, I would say she's been scene stealing left and right. Milioti has been great. And then Renzi Felice has also been playing an exceptional role, too, as Victor, his protege in training, if you will.
It is something.
There's a weird connection, but like I say, it reminds me of a Bronx Tale in a little bit. Just in the setup for this. So the 3 episodes in now, and we're going to be talking about the episode entitled Bliss. So, Pad, what is your spoiler-free statement on the latest episode?
A little bit of a slower episode, but that's not a bad thing. You know, good backstory, good filler to who some of these characters are and what the heck is going on and why they're doing what they're doing. So in terms of like the character exploration, I dug it.
I really thought this was a great spotlight on Victor.
Yeah.
And we really got a lot of background about what was going on with him and what is his role growing up in this world now. And I really thought they did a great job setting this up and where it leads him and where we're ultimately going with his character, too. Like I say, this is more or less centering around him and more or less showing if he's all in or if he's all out. So I thought they did an excellent job with this episode. Ending is very, very interesting moving forward. I will say that. But I really thought they hit the ground running. Great acting all around for this episode. So, Pat, let's get into it. 3, 2, 1. Let's talk Bliss.
Great episode. Love the spotlight they did on Victor and kind of flesh out who he is. Because, hey, listen, at this point, we know who Penguin is. You know, not a real big mystery or secret what his motivations are. But to take a focus on to a character who's new to the screen, new to audiences, new to us, and put a spotlight on him and kind of flesh him out a little bit, I really dug it.
I really thought they did a great job with this episode. It's probably the best one I think they've done all in the 3 so far. I really thought that they showed the relationship between Colin Farrell's Penguin and Victor in a light we haven't seen before. Because we know what the Penguin is capable of. He is a ruthless gangster. There's no question about it. And to see how he plays off Victor, who he sees a little bit of himself in, I thought it was a great dynamic to set up and what ultimately is the challenge of Victor's soul and where he decides at the end. I really thought it was just top-level stuff, and I think they really hit the ground running because we start this episode off with a flashback.
Yeah.
And this is showing Victor's family and how he wants to meet up with his girlfriend on a rooftop. And he goes there. There's kind of a little party going on. But he alludes to like there's some bombing at City Hall.
Well, they know something's going to happen.
Yeah, and they know that this is like something monumental. They want to go see it firsthand.
Like, this is a can't-miss event.
Yeah, and it turns out to be the explosions that the Riddler did.
Yeah, on the seawalls.
So you do see Gotham getting flooded. And you do see this heartbreaking scene where you see the waters rushing over Victor's apartment.
Because he's across the street.
Yeah, so he sees literally his family get drowned.
Yeah.
After he has a fight with the family. And it's it was like I say, it's a powerful scene because they set up the dynamic that he leaves them when they're telling him to stay and he won't. So now he's completely on his own. So they jump to the present, and we do see Sophia is now working with Oz, so they're fully set on this.
Yep.
And they have a drug that they want to use, and she says that this was used on me in Arkham. And Pat, what is it?
Bliss.
Yes. And to me, this reminded me a little bit of one Jonathan Crane's Fear Gas.
Oh, Lord. Could be.
That I thought that maybe they were kind of dipping into that.
Could be a spinoff of it.
It could be. I really thought they were diving into that, so I was very excited to see what they did. So now they're basically saying, okay, we got a drug on the streets.
Yeah.
We need somebody to distribute this.
Oh yeah, because the whole logic with this with the show at this point has been whoever controls kind of the drug trade controls the city.
Mm-hmm. So they want to do this. They have a deal worked out with the triads.
Yep.
So they definitely want to make this happen, but they won't do this until they get the support of Johnny Vitti.
Yep.
And that becomes a little dicey as things are playing out because Vitti is not exactly too much on the Sophia bandwagon.
Yeah.
Vitti, who's played by the one and only Michael Kelly, who's fantastic in this role too.
Oh yeah.
Is a little preoccupied with some extramarital affairs that he's involved in.
Boy.
And Sophia and Oz find out about this because of the pictures that Oz originally found in the suite of one Carmine Falcone.
Mm-hmm.
So when he starts getting these photos together, Sophia and Oz track down Vitti and they catch him in the act with Luca's wife, who is the head of the family right now.
Yeah.
And they basically say, well, you can either support us in this move with the triad or we're going to expose you and you're going to get killed.
Crime families members being unfaithful to their spouses? What?
Yeah, I know.
That never happens.
I know. And especially, too, Vitti's reaction during all of this was hilarious.
It was so good.
Yeah.
I want to know in like a future behind the scenes thing, was that the first take or did that take a while to get to?
Oh, my God, it had to. He was so calm while everything's going on. And you could definitely tell like Oz was trying to get at him the entire time. So they're all just like, all right, well, like, what are we going to do here? So Vitti gets down to business. He agrees to it. All the while, though, Victor does meet up with his girlfriend.
Yep.
And he's kind of in this weird situation where he's now getting paid by Oz. Oz is trying
handsomely.
Yeah, he's getting paid like $1,000 a day or something like that.
At least it's an insane amount.
Yeah, he's getting paid, but she's trying to tell him like, "There's nothing for me here. I'm leaving for California."
Yeah, because the city ain't getting any better.
Yeah. So what do you want to do? And he's like, "Well, I can't really leave because my boss is kind of a gangster."
Well, I think part of him does want to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Because he loves the girl. He can see a future with the girl, family, kids, whatever the future entails. But he's also making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. And he's doing some math in his head and be like, if I stick at this and I do decent at this for 5 years times this many days, like he's doing some math in his head and going, I can make out pretty good with this.
Yeah, but he ultimately is torn between that and he knows that, well, Oz will probably kill him.
Yeah, that or somebody else will because he gets caught on the wrong side.
Yeah. So all this setup is going to when they go to the club and they're trying to have Bliss on the market.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing a lot of flashbacks happening of Victor with the events of the firewall break or the flood wall breaking.
Mm-hmm.
So it is kind of taking up his time and like where he's going to because he more or less tells his girlfriend, buy me a bus ticket. I'm going to leave.
Yeah.
And he gets very nervous talking about it, and you could see that there's a lot of anguish in his voice when he finally confronts Oz about it, because Oz is like,
hey, listen, you stood up to me and you're making a choice. I'm all for it.
Yeah, he winds up actually giving him a pass to leave, which
yeah, go ahead.
Which I was sitting there like, I don't really know if they're going to go this route. Like this doesn't seem right. Like something's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
But he does have the option to leave.
Yep.
And Victor does decide to go. But as he's driving Oz's car, he kind of has a second thought.
Mm-hmm.
And he is more or less convinced himself that this is the life he wants to be in, that this is where his future goes. He wants to show loyalty to Oz.
And he's also seeing Oz and Sophia being held by the Maronis at gunpoint.
Well, he comes back. No, that's when he comes back.
Right,
yeah, no,
right.
He's having that second thought while he's driving.
Right.
Because he could leave. His girlfriend bought the extra ticket with the money he gave him, and she's waiting at the bus station, but she ultimately gets on the bus without him. But all of this time, too, he is sitting there thinking, and Oz really kind of sells the point about, you should come back. And luckily he does, because when things go sideways with Sophia and Oz, because they're getting held up by the Maroni family, well, that's when things get a little crazy, because Victor comes back.
Demolition Derby.
And sees Oz is getting held up. He rams the car into one of the hitman that's going to shoot him.
Yep.
And Victor kills him, and then Oz gets in the car.
And he leaves his partner behind.
Yeah, he leaves Sophia behind. He's like, nope. He's like, we're out of here. He's like, what about Sophia?
worry about that later.
We'll take care of it. He's like, I knew you'd come back. I knew you'd come back. Oh my! He's like, he's elated. He's coming back, but at the same point, they're like, Sophia's there, right? Nah, don't worry about her. She's good. We good.
Yeah,
Let's drive. And that's how they end the episode. I mean, it's brilliant stuff too, because you do see that side of Victor who's seduced by the life of crime, and he's seen that fast money. He knows he has no family to go back to, so it's like, what else is there?
Yeah. And
Oz has been this weird surrogate father to him in a sense, because I think for the first time since what happened in the events of the flood there, he now feels like somebody genuinely cares about him. As messed up as that sounds, because it is messed up.
Well, yeah.
But I think that he does feel that sense.
And it's also a sense of like, hey, I don't have to worry about too much because I've got somebody looking out for me.
Yeah.
That like I need to have an eye over my shoulder, but not all the time.
Well, he knows that Oz has got his back, and he's now kind of feeling like he's got himself on some kind of status, which I don't think he ever thought he had before.
Probably not.
No, but it definitely makes some sense as it plays out. And I think this entire episode, like I say, it focuses a lot on Victor and his movement. It also sets up Oz as he wants to now try breaking into this drug world that he's so desperate to get into. It's almost like a parallel story, because he wants that status too, that he's somebody, and I just don't know if he's ever going to get that.
Probably not.
But in this same side too, Victor wants that as well. He wants to be somebody, and I think they're kind of on that path too. And that's why I say I always kind of compare it to Bronx Tale with Sonny and his protege there that he's trying to guide. And I think you kind of see that loyalty get tested. And I think this is where it really jumps in. And I really think that it provides a lot of great scenes happening as well too, because the show is not unapologetic for what it is. It's
a crime drama.
It's criminals doing criminal things.
Like it's kind of like what we go back to with The Sopranos, and I know the creator of Sopranos has said, you're not supposed to like or root for Tony Soprano. But Breaking Bad, you're not supposed to like or root for Walter, at least by the end of it. Like they just do awful, awful, awful things.
Yeah. So, like we say, with Oz is now getting to exposed for what he's doing, because now the Maroney family's onto him. It now provides this weird dynamic that's going to have to really play itself out. But now with Victor with him, what happens with Sophia? And that's going to turn into something crazy as well, because they're both not liked by either of the families going on right now. So how do you maneuver the streets of Gotham? That's anybody's guess, but that's what provides this episode with so much. It's strong plot, amazing acting.
Yeah.
I mean, Pat, final thoughts?
No, everything about this is an incredible basket of win. And the reviews we were seeing before episode 1 came out, what were you watching? Because you're clearly not watching the same thing we are.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing.
It's amazing, and everybody should be watching The Penguin Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on HBO and streaming on Max. In the meantime, though, hit us up on the hashtag ODPH Pod. What is your thoughts about episode 3 of The Penguin entitled Bliss? Let's talk about it, shall we? But first, we got to get our last breakout. We'll be right back.
The content you are listening to is part of the Nerd Initiative Podcast Network. For more info about the home of pop culture positivity, be sure to check out nerdinitiative.com.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder, and you better listen to the ODPH podcast, or I'm coming for you, and Batman is coming for you.
Coming back for the final segment on this edition of the ODPH podcast. Pad, what you got?
Got a couple things to talk about, and the first of which is some unfortunate news in the Dragon Ball franchise in the universe, and that was the English narrator Doc Harris passed away a couple days ago, yesterday actually, as we record, at the age of 76. Reading from the article on HollywoodReporter.com, it says, quote, Doc Harris, the original English language narrator of the Dragon Ball Z anime series, has died. He was 76. Harris died Saturday at Vancouver General Hospital after minor surgery, according to the Canadian trade publication Broadcast Dialogue. Born Gilbert Eklenick on August 3rd, 1948, Harris started working in Canadian radio stations before becoming a famous voice in the anime world. His first job as Gil Harris was with CKOM in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in 1970. During the next 3 years, he moved between radio stations in Sudbury, Hamilton, and Toronto as Doc Holliday. He then landed in Vancouver at Vancouver Station CKLG in 1973 as disc jockey Doc Harris. For the next quarter century, he had a successful radio career at such Vancouver stations as CFMI, CKSS or KISS FM, CKST, and new station CKNW, as well as CFUN, CKNW, and CISL. But the anime world is paying tribute to Harris, who was the English language narrator of Dragon Ball Z, the martial arts heavy series and franchise that gave the world such characters as Goku, Piccolo, Bulma, and Krillin. Dragon Ball was adapted into a popular anime series by Toei Animation. The Dragon Ball Z animated series launched in 1989 and ran until 1996. Harris narrated other anime series like Monster Rancher, Eat Man 98, Sister Blue, and the Aegis Defenders video game. In 2019, he voiced the role of Grogar for 5 episodes in the TV series My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, which also had Tara Strong and Ashley Ball in the voice cast, close quote. Now, the thing we should note, he did the narration voice for the Ocean dub. He's not the Funimation dub. So if you ever remember the Dragon Ball anime when it was first airing, and like Vegeta had it wasn't Christopher Sabat doing the voice, it was somebody else. You know, it's those days. So it's back in the early days. You can still find some videos of it online, but easily like as recognizable as like Goku's voice is, or Krillin's voice, or Frieza, or Cell, Piccolo. Like pick your voice. The narrator's voice is just as important and just as memorable because they open the show and they closed the show. And there were a lot of times some of the best dialogue in the entire show, no matter who the narrator was, which version it was. They had some of the best lines, like just incredible, and a tragic loss for him, his friends, family, and Dragon Ball fans across the world.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a devastating loss, and like we say, our deepest condolences out.
And then to some other news and some surprising news. We're going to be getting a crossover in the comedy world with Abbott's Elementary and Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Oh boy, I'm here for this. So the initial article came out after we recorded last week, and the article from Variety.com says, quote, "It's official, Abbott Elementary and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia are indeed plotting a crossover episode, as has been hinted at in recent cryptic social media posts by Abbott star/creator Quinta Brunson and Sunny star co-creator Rob McElhenney. McElhenney revealed the news in a social media post, including a photo of him, Sonny's Charlie Day, and Brunson outside the Warner Brothers lot studio for Abbott. Also on Instagram stories, McElhenney posted another shot which added Sonny's Danny DeVito and Abbott's Tyler James Williams and William Stanford Davis to the mix. McElhenney had previously teased on social media that a Abbott/Sonny crossover would make sense, given that both shows are set in Philadelphia. And although Abbott is produced by Warner Brothers TV, the show airs on Disney's ABC, while Sonny airs on Disney's FX network. So such a crossover seemed in the realm of possibility. Close quote. We did get an update today as we record, though, and we're coming with the full train here, folks. And I mean crazy train. Because another article from Variety.com today says, quote, "The gang's all here this season on Abbott Elementary, and we're referring to the Patty's Pub Gang. In advance of Wednesday night's season 4 premiere, 9:30 p.m. Eastern on ABC, Justin Halpern and fellow EP Patrick Shoemaker spoke with Variety about some of this season's themes and storylines, including the just confirmed crossover with It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Sunny star Rob McElhenney made it official last week via his social media account, posting photos of him and Brunson, along with Williams and William Stanford Davis from Abbott, and Sonny's Charlie Day and Danny DeVito outside the Warner Brothers lot studio for Abbott. Now, Halpern and Shoemaker confirmed that the entire It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia cast will appear in episode 409, the 9th episode of this season, and the storyline will take up the full half hour. Quote, "We got the whole gang. The A story, B story, C, D, it's all them," Shoemaker said. That means Glenn Howerton, who's currently shooting Netflix's Sirens, and Caitlin Olsen, who's starring in ABC's High Potential, will also make an appearance because of schedules. The episode still has some scenes left to shoot next week. Charlie Day's character has a pretty significant storyline in our episode. It was kind of a joke at first that the two shows should cross over. On paper, it feels like they'd be a real tonal mishmash. But then Rob and Charlie came to our writer's room, and we hashed out some real broad stroke ideas. From there, we emailed back and forth beat sheets and then an outline. They were super game for everything. All those concerns that we had about the tones of the shows butting against each other's were alleviated the second we started filming with Charlie. Close quote. So this sounds like it's going to be incredible. I've got a couple ideas what they could do with this. Mainly that the school might need some substitute teachers, and they hire these band of degenerates to be substitute teachers. It's going to be absolutely insane, and I cannot wait to watch
Yeah,
this.
I know you're all locked in about this one. I mean, it's going to be a wild episode.
Absolutely. Then we got some casting news, and this is for the upcoming Lantern show. So, reading from an article on HollywoodReporter.com, quote, Aaron Pierre, the star of Netflix's Rebel Ridge, has nabbed the plum part of Green Lantern John Stewart in DC Studios and HBO's much ballyhooed series Lanterns. The casting caps one of the more scrutinized actor searches in some time. Not only is the show the first major TV endeavor from DC studio heads James Gunn and Peter Safran, but the role of Stewart carries much significance as the fan-favorite comic book character was one of DC's first black superheroes. The intense casting process came down to Pierre and Stephen James, who is on the festival circuit with drama The Piano Lesson and who starred in the 2016 Jesse Owens biopic Race. Both participated in screen tests, with the actors squaring off against the already cast Kyle Chandler. On Thursday and Friday, each actor had their boosters and their final decision was made Tuesday. Close quote. So we got our John Stewart.
Amazing. No,
Yeah.
I'm all in about this casting. I think that this show is really stacking itself up to be a major force. I can't wait to check it out.
This whole Lanterns TV show thing, like at this point, because it was announced with the Greg Berlanti stuff, and then it was teased with the Arrowverse, and it's going to come out of that, and then that never happened, and then it was this and that. Like this for me is like with you in the Flash movie. I'll believe it when I'm sitting down on my couch to watch it.
See, I can understand this skepticism. I really can. I just think that they've been really making strides about casting this well.
Sure.
And I think now maybe it's just too much faith in the James Gunn, Peter Safran era. But I really think that they're going to get this right.
Sure.
So I'm giving the benefit of the doubt here. So we have to talk some comics because, man, oh man, there's a lot that came out this week. Pat, what are we talking this week?
So what I'm picking up this week, first of which from DC, it is Action Comics issue number 1070 from Mark Waid. Description of this one reads, quote, an otherworldly horror tearing its way through Metropolis has emerged from the Phantom Zone. Something's wrong in the zone, something terrible, and Superman must enter alone to find out what. From the pages of Absolute Power and Batman Superman World's Finest comes a new action epic unlike anything you've seen before from the visionary creative team of Mark Waid and Clayton Henry. Plus, the Woman of Tomorrow is here today. Supergirl specials Mariko Tamaki and Skylar Patridge return to bring Kara to the farthest reaches of space in pursuit of a mysterious threat only she can handle. Super excited to read this. Anytime you get the Phantom Zone included in a Superman story, it's going to be wild.
Yeah, they're doing some really cool things, too, because obviously what's going down with the all-in movement, I think this is going to fill in some gaps. Just saying. So definitely want to make sure you check that out, too.
Yeah. Then from the folks over at Marvel, you've got the Ultimates issue number 5 from Dennis Camp. This one reads, quote, Ultimate Hawkeye targets Captain America. Hawkeye no more? Not for long. A new challenger approaches when an unknown civilian picks up the discarded bow and arrow and refuses to let the Ultimates reclaim the stolen Stark tech. Captain America tries to settle the dispute, leading to an action-packed brawl of arrows versus shields. Meanwhile, the Ultimates Hellfire Club is up to something. ... This one's going to be good. Like, it's Dennis Camp, it's running the Ultimates. Hey, you can't go wrong with this.
No, he's firing on all the cylinders. That whole run right now is absolutely wild. So
then you've got, from the folks at Marvel, Amazing Spider-Man issue number 59 from Zeb Wells, because, hey, let's face it, I'm on this crazy train. I might as well ride it to the end. This one reads, quote, the mano-a-mano fight that started last issue is so huge it took over the cover to here. Come see John Romita Jr. does what he does best with the most brutal fight in Spider-Man history. Spidey versus Tombstone. And Tombstone, as you can see on the cover, looking a little bloody.
I would say.
Look at a lot of webs getting thrown. Tombstone is saying, quote, let's get crazy, which could mean a lot of things. We'll see what happens. And then also picking up Star Wars Ahsoka issue number 4 from Rodney Barnes. This one reads, quote, Fallen Jedi. Hera risks her career to help her friends, while Ahsoka and Sabine confront enemies. It's been a fun read. You know, like I've said in the reviews I did for the previous 3 issues, It's a fun retelling of the show from what it was on Disney Plus. I have not seen the episodes since they aired because, hey, life is kind of in the way.
Yeah.
But it's a very faithful adaptation and fun to read.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing about it. Plus, Rodney Barnes always does great work. So, I'll always check his stuff out.
Then you've got the 3 issues I reviewed for Nerd Initiative this week. They're all from Dark Horse, and they are all Star Wars The High Republic Adventures. Busy week for High Republic Adventures. Great stuff, though. First of which is The High Republic Adventures, Dispatches from the Occlusion Zone, issue number 1 from Daniel Jose Older. This one reads, quote, the Marauders known as the Nihil have stranded hundreds of worlds in a part of the galaxy known as the Occlusion Zone. With communication blocked and ships unable to enter, Jedi Knights Keeve Trennis and Elzar Mann have turned to centuries-old technology to send messages of hope into the zone. The messages they receive in return from Jedi younglings, Padawans, Knights, and more will set the stage for the final battle between the noble Jedi and the nefarious Nihil. This one's fun. Close quote, by the way. This one's fun. It's a great read. If you've been keeping up with some of the Dark Horse High Republic Adventure series, going to be some characters you recognize in this. And yeah, this is going to be setting up for something nuts at the end, and I just can't wait to see what it is.
Yeah, High Republic stuff is on point.
Also from the High Republic Adventures, you've got Echoes of Fear, issue number 2 from George Mann. This one reads, Jedi Knight Reith Silas and Jedi Padawan Amadeo Azazo delve deeper into the history of the Echo Stones. In doing so, they unearth the epic tale of Jedi Master Barnabas Vim as he tries to recover an Echo Stone from the hands of a Jedi Wayfinder who risks being seduced by his force-amplifying power, close quote. So, this one, it's been kind of a slow build, but it's a new item. They're building it up and kind of giving a little bit of backstory as to why this is such an important item, rather than just introducing it and going, hey, this is important. You should be concerned about this. No, they're actually showing, like, why are we looking for this? Why is this so important? And it's been a good build so far.
Yeah.
Then you've got, lastly, and certainly not leastly, High Republic Adventures, Saber for Hire, issue number 4 from Kevin Scott. This one reads, quote, the epic miniseries comes to a shocking conclusion. The identity of the sinister Child of the Storm revealed, a path confronted, and a sacrifice made, as Ty York and her apprentice face their biggest challenge yet. Ty's life will never be the same. This issue is all sorts of nuts, and a little bit of a hint. Not the last we're going to see of Ty York. Don't know what's going to happen, but it does say in the issue that they'll return. Fun read, though. Definitely a good read and a fun little miniseries they did.
Yeah, I see. Dark Horse is doing some great stuff with Star Wars. I know we always talk about Marvel doing stuff, and Marvel is doing great work, but Dark Horse, do not sleep on them.
Absolutely not.
Ever. So for me, I would say a short list, but I mean, obviously I'm covering a lot of different stuff happening in New York Comic Con. So the top one, though, I think on everybody's lips this week is Absolute Batman #1. Scott Snyder returns after 4 years away from DC Comics and comes back with a vengeance with Nick Dracata on the artwork, and this is a completely different Batman that you've known. We had the pleasure of talking with Scott last night as we were recording on Turn a Page for Nerd Initiative, and that podcast version will be out tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Thursday, Eastern Standard Time, so make sure you're subbed up to the ODPH because that's where you'll get it. And this issue delivers. Like, this is a brutal story. It's a very different Batman than we've seen, but it is amazing, though. And Scott just takes us into a lot of different places. It's a fun read, and the artwork by Dragata is just next level stuff. Like I say, everybody kind of focuses on how big Batman is.
Right.
Trust me, everything makes sense when you see this all play out. So it's an amazing read, part of the DC All-In movement. Speaking of DC All-In movement, one story that I think deserves a lot more noise, and Pat, I'm just going to show you the cover. Green Lantern is in the midst of a big event going on with a Civil Corps special. So this is everything that's been building in the regular Green Lantern series, the War Journal series.
Right.
And this is one, if you've been a longtime Green Lantern fan, you see a returns left and right of a lot of favorite Lanterns in the mix of Hal Jordan finally taking care of Theros and having a showdown that's been building for quite some time.
Oh, okay.
So this is a one, like, for me, I like old school Green Lantern. I'm getting into this now with the DC All-In movement. So this one has definitely got my attention, and I really can't recommend it enough. I think they're going to be doing some really cool things here. Last but certainly not least for me, it's Energon Universe time. Transformers number 13, Daniel Warren Johnson. Jason Howard is on the artwork this time.
Oh, okay.
And this is the origin of Starscream. And if you've been reading what's been going on in the Energon universe, Obviously, Starscream is not exactly had the best run after coming across Soundwave, to put it mildly. So they do some very cool flashbacks to his past on Cybertron. It's kind of like it's a very, emotional story in that aspect. You kind of understand his reasoning for how he is. And you also see what's involved in his future a little bit. So they're definitely teasing some things going on. A lot of great stuff in that universe. Like I say, Skybound does not miss when they drop anything Energon universe. So you definitely want to go check that out. And if it's anything and everything that is at the comic shops, Nerd Initiative is talking about it. Over 35 reviews on site right now. So nerdinitiative.com and on the socials too. So check it out. That being said, for anything and everything that is the ODPH, you can find it at ODPHpodcast.com. That's it for entertainment this week. So for the one only, Padawan J.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Ken. Thank you as always for listening to the ODPH podcast. We'll see you next time.